All right, let's bring in my guest, Greg Keeley, a retired U.S. and Australian Navy commander, and now the managing partner at the global security firm Dreadnought. Greg, how explosive is the situation right now in your assessment on the Israel-Lebanon border?
Michelle, look, I think it is potentially very explosive. The problem here is pretty simple. You have a terrorist organisation, Hezbollah, with the backing of Iran and Russia, that are trying to tunnel into Israel's sovereign territory to cause mischief, to kill civilians. Their Radwan, elite terrorist unit would be the people that would lead that fight. They're not going over there to do their grocery shopping. The problem we have now is Israel has appealed to the Lebanese government. They've said it's interesting. They've appealed to the UN. The UN obviously haven't done anything. Israel will have no option very soon other than to act unilaterally and take those tunnels out and take them out at the source.
And if Israel does that, does it then risk playing into the hands of the terrorists? Because it does seem as though Iran's agenda is to drag Israel into a multi-front war. We've got the violence flaring up in the West Bank, in Gaza, Iran in Syria, and now if Israel is focused on Lebanon, it's dispersed over so many fronts and, in a sense, playing into what Iran wants.
Michelle, that's categorised it perfectly. The problem for Israel is a government is in place to protect its people. If the Hezbollah terrorists, with the backing of Iran and of Russia, continue to do this, they have to act. They can't let it go unanswered. What I think the Israelis should look at doing is identifying the tunnel diggers, the people that are in charge of the tunnels, the people that dig the tunnels, and take them out of the picture. It's exactly the same premise that we used in Iraq and Afghanistan, not just finding roadside bombs and IEDs, but finding the bomb makers, neutralising them, and then your risk goes down enormously.
Well,
yeah, please.
Let's talk about the role of the United Nations, the peacekeeping force there. UNIFIL did intervene today, perhaps manage the situation from flaring further. Now, UNIFIL was supposed to monitor the border and make sure that tunnels like these weren't built in the first place, so certainly didn't do a good job there. Israel is saying that the UN needs to destroy the tunnels on the Lebanese side of the border. You're saying that Israel can't rely on the UN to do this or take any kind of action?
Well, I mean, we just have to look at the results here, and the UN have now said it's interesting. They're looking into it. They'll probably have a study. It'll probably get debated somewhere. But Israel cannot, and I agree with you entirely, the United Nations should be destroying those tunnels on the other side of the border, but they're not. And the Israelis need to take these tunnels out.
Yeah.
I think they need to take out the tunnel diggers, the tunnel masterminds, and neutralise the threat that way.
Well, the UN will also be holding a meeting over this situation in Wednesday, but not usually very effective in those meetings anyway. Let's talk about Russia's role here, Greg, because Russia reportedly warning Lebanon, the government in Lebanon, that it bears responsibility for Hezbollah and the terror tunnels running into Israel.
Right.
What do you think the Russian agenda is here?
Look, Michelle, I think the Russian agenda is simple. They like to see the region destabilised. It's why they're in bed so tightly with Iran, in bed so tightly with Syria, allied to Hezbollah and Lebanon. Hezbollah see Russia as an ally. Now, if all this melee is going on in the Middle East with Israel and these terrorist organisations, the Russians hope that will drag in the West, drag in the United States, and destabilise the region. The Russians are bullies, and when an area, when there's unease or unrest, bullies prosper, and that's exactly what Russia's
Greg,
trying to do here.
Why do you think then Russia is seemingly backing Israel on this one?
Well, I mean, they're seeming to back Israel on this one. If they wanted to stop Hezbollah and the government digging these tunnels, they could have, and they should have months ago. They haven't done that. I think now they're doing this for a PR stunt. I don't believe that the Russians really genuinely are trying to stop these terror tunnels being dug.
Well, they are saying on the record that they hold the Lebanese government accountable for the actions of Hezbollah. Certainly Israel's position, is that fair to hold the Lebanese government accountable here?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, the Lebanese government are responsible for these terrorists digging tunnels from their territory. The Lebanese government are the ones that initially, or the ones that should be seeking out and destroying these tunnels at the source. They're not doing that. The second choice is the UN. They're not doing that. Israel are in a very, very difficult position here, and I think they're playing it as well as they can, but it's going to get to the point where they have to go and take these tunnels out at the source, no question at all.
It does appear to be developing that way. Greg, thank you so much for your time and your analysis. Greg Keeley there.
Anytime.